Now, let's get into the discussion, right? As part of the ground crew of the global Sumud Flotilla, Joe Blunt is supporting the largest maritime mission yet to break Israel's blockade. Uh, 50 ships, as I mentioned earlier on, or 50 boats rather, as I mentioned earlier on. You can't call them vessels and ships; they are regarded and classified as boats. We explore the stakes, the law, the humanitarian spirit driving the mission. Well, good day to you, Joe Bloom. Thank you for joining us.
Good day, good morning, and greetings to your guests at home. Thanks for having me.
Joe, before we get an update on the global Sumud flotilla, and yes, we've been receiving bits of information with regards to interception, etc. But before we get the update from you, I mean, talk to us, Joe. You are from South Africa. You're an individual of Jewish ancestry, Jewish background, but yet you are a South African Jewish activist for Palestine. Many may say that how is it you've got Joe Blund on the front line, hopefully on the front line of Palestinian and world and humanitarian activism. Joe, talk to us. How did you land in the position that you are in currently?
Thank you for that question. Well, I think it's a real. Let me be very clear. Today is Yom Kippur, which is the holiest
Mm.
day of the Jewish calendar. And in fact, I was on Radio Islam on Friday evening, and it's one of the most sacred Sabbaths. And I've been reflecting between, as you can imagine, the chaos of the last 12 hours. That fasting kind of gets you into a space around that. That it is very clear to me that it is my Judaism as one of many things that leads to my anti-Semitism and not the other way around. There's something about a diasporic religion, a nomadic religion that has been that way for millennia, that really only took hold in a Zionist fashion in the last 200 odd years, but really historically, Israel has not really been part of as a Jewish imaginary in any more way than Mecca, for example, might be part of an Islamic imaginary without it being a place that one needs to live in. And so, yeah, I think that it is. This is a political issue. This is an issue of settler colonial domination. This is an issue. I'm not saying it's entirely secular, but and certainly there are religious warriors for war, but this is an issue of settler colonial domination. This is an issue of a Holocaust committed in the context of a genocide. And quite frankly, I think from my side, as someone who takes their faith quite seriously, as someone who comes from Jews who left Nazi Germany, who some of whom didn't leave in time, some of whom were, my aunt was killed by the Einsatzgruppen in the Eastern Front. My grandmother was from the Warsaw Ghetto. For us, we know what it means to fight fascism. We know what it means to encounter enemies who want to see the end of humanity. And we know that our faith is being exploited for this. And, if the fascists are Jewish or the fascists are Christian, fascists are fascists, and we will resist.
Joe, you part of the ground crew. I mean, talk to us. What are the duties of the ground crew? Is it support in some way? I'm sure it is support of some nature. But what is your role as being part of the ground crew of the global Sumud flotilla?
So I'm actually, so let me tell you about the ground crew and then I'll tell you a bit about my role. So I am
Mm.
part of the International Law Support Unit. And I was originally set to sail on the Shireen Abu Akleh legal support vessel, but a series of factors, including visa issues, meant I was not able to sail on the legal support boat. And since the drone attacks in Tunis, because of my experience, I've been following up on that. So what that means in terms of the legal side is, number one, creating an archive of all violations of international law. that we will use in various different legal units, whether it's for submission for criminal courts, for international criminal court, for various maritime violations, to create an archive to document and to bear witness. But more broadly, so I'm not strictly speaking part of the South African delegation, although I am in deep support and solidarity with it. The ground crew has a phenomenal team. The South African ground crew and most ground crews. And what that involves is people that are managing media, people that are managing, as you can imagine, the deep, scary relations with families to make sure that they are appraised of the situation and supported as we move through. They are there to make sure that the participants are moving through in as much safety as possible, to make sure that governments are appraised to the situation, so that the right consular and diplomatic and political pressure can be exerted in the event, is what we have seen, that our citizens or anyone gets abducted by the Israeli Defense Forces. So I really must give a shout out to our phenomenal team that is comprised of Palestine solidarity activists and grassroots activists from across the country that has done so much and really is an inspiration to me.
Joe, Israel has already threatened to intercept, sink, or detain activists at sea. I mean, from your perspective, what does international maritime law say about such actions? I mean, intercept is one thing, but where you find threats of sinking and imprisoning, that opens up, of course, a completely different kettle of fish entirely. How does one respond to that from a legal point of view, Joe?
So I think this is a good question, and let me frame it in terms of maritime law. Let me frame it, and if you'll indulge me, in terms of the moment where maritime law meets the laws of war, meets international criminal law, meets the law of genocide, and meets international humanitarian law, because that is the critical interface that we are seeing. So in terms of maritime law, we are governed by a treaty from 1982 known as the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, or UNCLOS. And basically what we know from there is that the high seas, international waters, are open to all. And we know that even in the context, because it's predominantly, the law of the sea is predominantly a quite ancient legal architecture that's designed to protect free trade. So even in a state's territorial waters, they are obliged to allow free passage unless there is reasonable grounds to doubt that vessel. And just to be very clear on that, there is no situation in this where this involves Israel's waters. Gaza's waters are Palestinian waters. So it is not only in international waters, but even if it were in its own, what it claims to be so-called waters, we need to understand this being mediated by colonial domination, which, like genocide, is an erga omnes responsibility that is non-derogable in international law. So when you're talking about an interception, and thank you for giving me that moment to lead up to this, because you asked about maritime law and I wanted to start there. But we are also, I think that you need to look at this in the context of the illegality of the blockade itself. There is no grounds, I think we know it's illegal and immoral and barbaric. But let me just read you briefly from the San Remo Manual, the Law of Naval Warfare, which is kind of one of the most significant treaty-based legal bodies. And a blockade is prohibited, quote, and this is from paragraph 102, 103, if its sole purpose is starving the civilian population. So we're dealing with an illegal blockade, right? And then when we read that into the law of genocide, we know that from the 2024 ICJ order that there was an obligation to provide for humanitarian aid at scale. And so And I always say this, you cannot divorce the siege from the settler colony, and you cannot divorce the blockade from the genocide. So basically what we're seeing is an interception of vessels carrying humanitarian aid, food, baby formula, sanitary products, to a besieged population that is currently facing mass extermination and annihilation, where the colonizing party is deigning to define who and how it is fit to deliver aid. And in that context, that settler colonial occupying party is now threatening to sink, is abducting non-citizens of its own territory, and anyone, I mean, it doesn't matter who, is taking hostages. This is hostage taking, and detaining people for the simple act of trying to actually carry out their obligations under the Genocide Convention to prevent and punish genocide, and doing so by carrying through humanitarian aid. So that is a kind of, I just wanted to kind of give you a broader legal picture of the different legal apparatus that are at stake, and just to kind of reiterate that it is the law of the sea, it is international criminal law, it is humanitarian law, it is the laws of war, it is for ICJ Genocide Convention, and so many different factors of international law that come into this, besides the fact that it is just plain barbaric.
Joe Blood, certainly we'll be crossing over for updates to you over the course of the next few days. For now, stay focused and stay on board, as they say. Global Sumud Flotilla news coming out during the course of the day. And from our side, Joe, Gimar, Yatima Tova, and have a good, rest of your day and rest of your month.
Thank you, and best wishes to you and your viewers. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Joe Blood joining us from the support team of the Global Sumud Flotilla during the course of the day. Hopefully we